We're at the Bob Camp Hospice, and it's cleanup day here. Great day to be outside and enjoy conditions. And the neatest thing about social media is that it's instantaneous. And this morning, when we were going to talk with Carson here, we were going to say, send us some questions. And Carson, they've sent some, I don't know if they're tricky ones,
There's
but
some tricky ones in that batch. People put me on the spot this morning. It's going to be fun.
Okay, so here we go. So Linda Robichaud said, how do you get rid of hornworms on your tomatoes?
So hornworms are the big, mean little buggers, and they have the little prong off the back of their tail. The honest answer, Linda, and I'm really sorry for you, but your fingers. You have to pull them off. There's no easy answer. Pull them off, feed them to the birds or anything else that will eat them. Other than that, no simple solution.
But a good source of protein.
A good source. Yeah, they're squishy. Just be careful because they're aggressive and they will bite.
Ooh, okay, so there you go. Watch that one. Claudia Begley says, I have a 5x5 section of my veggie garden, but anything that plants there starts off well and then it just droops. Everything around it's fine. Her garden's 20x40. What about that little section?
So basically what's happening when you have plants that are fruiting, the point of which they're fruiting, they need to produce extra energy. So you have to feed them just a little bit more. So if you've got, a tomato plant planted around spinach or kale, the spinach and kale, because it's all leafy and green, is producing lots of food and energy. The tomato plant, as soon as those cherry tomatoes start to appear, the big beefsteaks, it needs to produce that much more. You have to feed your plant at that point. A little extra water, a little extra fertilizer, and you should be good to go.
Okay. There we go. This is easy for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Lori Fawcett, we recently had to remove a beautiful 30-year-old climbing shrub to replace an old fence and want to plant something to soften that wall of stone and wood without damaging the new fence. Soil is being held back by a retaining wall. There's only 3 feet of width. Should we add a trellis with a climber or shrubs, or what do you suggest for that?
So there's really 2 answers here. You can definitely add a trellis because a trellis will add the protection. Then you can plant any type of vine you want on it. But if you want something on the retaining wall specifically, go for a slow growing vine. Now I like to use climbing hydrangea. It takes a long time for them to get established. So as a homeowner, you can maintain it. Really prune back any areas that you're worried about because it's such a slow growing option. But it will definitely soften the look, give you all the, the nice flowers in the springtime and in early summer. And at the same time will help hold back some of that soil.
Okay. Couple more here to go. Ted Sanders, he wants to talk pumpkins.
Pumpkins.
And I think he's getting into this in the industrial side of it. He says, I'm putting my pumpkins into the ground this weekend. Looks like a nice weekend ahead. And if you look at we don't have the picture, but one of the seedlings is twisted a bit. Now, could this twisting cause problems later on in the growth? Now, his first attempt at actually growing for weight seed stock from giant pumpkins, he's trying to grow them in the 500 to 600 pound range. So early choices in the best plant is best. So what do you suggest for him? He's getting into this industrial strength.
All right, well, pumpkins have a natural tendency to want to twist and twine because they're a vining type of vegetable. So a twisting seedling isn't necessarily a bad thing. As long as the health and the vigorous growth are still taking place, the fact that it's turning a little bit doesn't matter. Don't worry about that at all. Just look for those big early leaves, the seed leaves, and make sure it's got good growth happening. And then I just keep trucking along. You're doing all the right things.
Okay. Madge Thompson says, I have a rose of Sharon tree bush. The bark is peeling off at the bottom, and I lost half the tree in the ice storm last year. It's kind of like Charlie Brown's Christmas tree. Is there any hope for this yet?
Well, okay, if the bark's peeling off the bottom, I suspect it may have gotten a little bit of salt damage, which means it's probably close to a sidewalk or close to the front entryway. Roses of Sharon have a habit of peeling the bark when they're exposed to winter salt, especially, the freeze thaw, anything around the ice. So I would give your Rose of Sharon one more season. If it doesn't come back the way you want it to, then it's time to say goodbye, and you're going to have to actually make some choices.
Okay. 2 more to go. Jessica Ricker, I'm horrible at keeping plants alive. I think that's all of us here, or many of us here. What are the best low-maintenance flowers or plants to make up my front garden and make it look nice? We're also looking for some hanging baskets as well. Hanging baskets I just can't keep them alive. But what about on the ground here? What's easy maintenance?
Well, there's 2 answers for Jessica. If Jessica really wants to put time and effort into it, she can go for some of the low maintenance perennials, the ones that come back every year. But the reality is, given the question that she's asked, she probably wants to go with annuals. Easy breezy, 1 season commitment, things like petunias and patience, they're simple, and you don't have to put a lot of effort in to get a lot of return on that investment. So I personally, in Jessica's spot, probably go with the annuals.
Okay. Now, hanging baskets, we buy them every year, and every year they're good for about a month, and then they're gone. Is there something that I got to change? Is the soil crummy then when we buy them? What is it?
It's usually the watering. Usually that first month is the coolest month in the Canadian summer, right? As soon as it starts getting hotter and hotter, that's when our hanging planters dry out. They need to be watered twice as often as plants in the ground because they don't have natural sources of water, especially if they're hanging underneath these of the house. They have no rain getting to them, so you have to water them twice as often. Sometimes in a full sunny location, you have to water twice a day to keep those guys going.
I'll try that this year for us. Diana Dalla Costa-Rich, our garden has the ground cover that's spreading all over the place. It has purple flowers that look like African violets. How can we stop them from overtaking the garden? Please and thank you.
Oh boy, I have bad news. Of course, you saved the best question for last, right? You've got Creeping Charlie. And Creeping Charlie is one of the most aggressive, invasive weeds that you can have in any Canadian backyard. The answer? Persistence. Although I know the Royal Botanical Gardens always says, just move. It's time to move if you've got Creeping Charlie in your backyard. You got to keep ripping it out. And you've just got to keep staying on top of it, ripping it out, ripping it out. I know people who've battled Creeping Charlie for 10 to 12 years with no success. So it's not the best news, but at least now you know what it is.
Okay. Well, thank you for all of this.
My pleasure.
You can catch Carson on the HGTV network, and he'll have other questions. And I'm sure we'll run up against him again. So if you've got questions, send them along, and eventually we'll get to them. Thank you for doing this today.
My pleasure. We get to stand in a garden. What could be better?
You got it.